Hey everybody, Jarb here, and welcome back to another episode of Stuff I Watched June edition. Over a month of the summer end, I saw a whole butt ton of movies and played too much Elden Ring towards the end here, so let's not waste any time so I can get back to that. I started the month by watching The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Been checking in on a lot of Yorgos Lanthimos films I haven't seen, and I can say this might be my favorite of his. The way he slowly crafts his insane descent into madness is just so impressive, same with every performance here. Obviously Farrell and Kyogen are the standouts, but there were a lot of times Sonny Suljic and Raffi Cassidy just blew me away. It's impressive how tangible Yorgos' style is, while still making movies that just feel so unique from one another. Then I rewatched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And I guess 10-year-old Jared was right because this movie is amazing. Far from the Coens' most impressive, they're most thematically deep, but it's just such a crazy amount of fun. Clooney, Turturro, and Nelson are all playing off each other great. This feels like a fun little side adventure in the Coens' filmography. Just a pure, unadulterated good time. After that, I saw Furiosa and really loved it. In an incredibly sad and disappointing year, Furiosa performing so poorly at the box office and possibly killing this franchise has to be one of the most disappointing things. Miller somehow created something nearly as epic as Fury Road. There's so many times here where I thought he couldn't possibly top himself, and he went and did it. I'm also just glad to see Hemsworth in something that isn't a superhero movie, because he's definitely been underutilized so much recently. It's so sad that we let this fail. Then I saw the TV Glow again. I feel a lot more confident in my thoughts on this after seeing it a second time. The feeling of not knowing who you really are, or where you are, or that you're hiding something painful and real about yourself is something that I felt a lot more in my second viewing. Everything in the messaging here is so powerful and honestly cinematic. This is what movies should feel like, and although the feelings this movie produces can be painful for many, it's incredibly impressive how powerful this movie is. Despite how difficult it can be to see again, I'll definitely be seeing this again as it's slowly moving higher and higher on my yearly list. After that, I watched They Cloned Tyrone and enjoyed it quite a bit. I'll admit, not a ton of this movie has stuck with me. The color grading and cinematography left a bit to be desired, but I still think this worked really well. I'm glad John Boyega and Teyonah Parris are slowly escaping Disney. With an actual script, it's pretty incredible what they can do. This movie is definitely carried by its performances. Then I watched Pineapple Express. Nothing really special or great about this, but it is a good stoner comedy, so at least it has that working for it. Seth Rogen doesn't really fail to make me laugh a ton, so it shouldn't be surprising that I liked him so much at this. After that, I rewatched Dodgeball. Pretty similar feelings to the entry prior to this list. I haven't seen this one since I was a kid and confidently can say most of this has aged horribly, like really, really bad. I don't even think some of these jokes were funny then, so that was pretty disappointing, but man, is Ben Stiller alone making this movie so much better. His timing and just over-the-top performance here is wonderful. Then I watched Hitman. I've been waiting for this one for a while. I'm definitely a big believer in Glenn Powell having that it factor. Like, he feels like the closest thing we have to becoming a real movie star, and this movie only submitted my feelings in that department. He is phenomenal in this, and I just had such a great time with it. Unsurprisingly, Richard Linklater knows how to do a rom-com, and the chemistry here is great. The humor is amazing. The montage with Glenn Powell just doing a million impersonations is truly, awesome, and that notepad scene is one of my favorites of the year. Check this one out on Netflix, please. After that, I watched Fool's Paradise. It came out only sort of liking it. I love Charlie Day, I love It's Always Sunny, and I love making fun of Hollywood, but most of this just fell flat. It's never funny or inventive enough to just really justify how many in-jokes are happening here. Sucks because this is also a really loaded cast that just feels primed for at least a pretty funny time, but it kind of fails there. Then I checked out Before Sunrise, and this pretty much just tore me to shreds. I really think there's something so special about a great rom-com, and like I said, Linklater has got it there. This is arguably the best romance put to screen, or at least the most authentic. This and Harry Met Sally are only really fighting for that title for me. Also, I don't get how some people find Hawk annoyed in this. Sure, they are both assholes at times, but real people aren't perfect or always considerate, so I think people need to calm down just a bit. After that, I watched Dazed and Confused. Linklater can really find a vibe. As much as I hate to say that word, it just perfectly stretched it out to a whole movie without ever having that feel old or forced. Also, probably the most fun I've had with a McConaughey performance. He was just so great in this. Then I rewatched Inside Out. Wanted to watch this again in preparation for the second one, and man, did I have a big old stick up my butt the last time I saw this, because this really worked for me this time. It feels so sincere and honest from Pixar, something that feels a little lacking in recent projects from them. I'm glad that when they choose to, they can really make something so fun and unique for the rest of the animation industry. Also, not ashamed to admit, I got quite a bit emotional watching this time. Shout out to Big Bog. This really could have been a bad Pixar movie, so I'm glad to see how well they made it. After that, I rewatched Bullet Train, another case of old stick up the butt the first time I saw this because yeah, it's just a ton of fun. Dominated by a loaded cast and some fun setups, and a really, really great Aaron Taylor Johnson performance, Bullet Train never really lets up and just continues to be a great time for the whole runtime. I definitely have some problems when it comes to the screenplay, and this movie definitely could have been closer to that hour and a half mark with some better writing, but still, like I said, too much fun most of the time for that to matter at all. Then I saw both Garfield and Inside Out 2, but I'm saving my thoughts on those for a video with both of them that should already be out, so stay tuned for that soon. After that, I watched Once Brothers. I like basketball, I like these players, I like the story. I'm a simple man sometimes, what can I say? Certainly not for people who don't like the NBA, even then it is far from the best basketball doc, but like I said, it's an interesting story. Then I rewatched Surf's Up. I don't have a ton of thoughts on this, but man, has it held up surprisingly well. Kind of a great kids movie and a pretty interesting choice to tell it in a documentary-esque fashion. One of those rare kids movies that I think is actually very deserving of the underrated label. Not mentioned a lot when people are talking about some of the best, or even the best of the 2000s. After that, I rewatched The Darjeeling Limited, and I just love this movie so much. I updated the Wes Anderson ranking list, and this moved up to 3. It genuinely feels like Wes at his most heartfelt here. It's also becoming one of my comfort movies very quickly. The trio of Jason Schwartzman, Owen Wilson, and Adrian Brody are perfect for a Wes Anderson movie about brothers. This is just so phenomenal in literally every way. Then I rewatched The Social Network. I know, a big rewatch month for me, but hey, I hadn't seen some of these in a while, and a lot of them are all-time favorites for me. The Social Network is easily a top 5 movie for me, and one of those movies where I can vividly remember the first time I watched it, and how it made me feel. Everything here feels like a dance. A perfectly choreographed 10-minute dance number that you just can't take your eyes off. I attest this in large part to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's phenomenal score. This and Challengers alone are fighting for my favorite music score ever. Ross and Reznor just got it for me, man. I really remember falling in love with cinema when I watched this for the first time, and noticing a lot of stuff that just went right over my head, or things that were invisible to me when I was watching other movies. David Fincher, Jesse Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield, even Justin Timberlake, man, they got it here. After that, I watched Little Women for the first time and really loved it. The vibes and mood coming out of this movie are like if you put Lady Bird and Pride and Prejudice in a blender, this movie would just pop right out. I'm just a big fan of everything here, but especially performances. Florence Pugh and Saoirse Ronan are great in this, and it feels a little messed up to say because this is Little Women, but Timothée Chalamet was by and far the standout to me. I really just loved every scene he was in. Then I watched Dumb Money. Yeah, this was not good at all. I don't think I can blame anyone involved either, except everyone's agents for signing them onto this, because I didn't know what any of them were thinking. It just feels like this story is way more suited for an HBO documentary in a few years than a whole movie. It doesn't have the legs to sustain a whole feature film. But also, it's hard not to love Paul Dano, so that was nice at least. After that, I watched Nomadland. I was honestly really looking forward to this for a long time and just kept putting it off. Having finally watched it though, I have to say I'm a wee bit disappointed. At times, this movie was amazing, really moving, and incredibly profound. Then half the time, it felt like it was overly explaining everybody or struggling to really keep my focus. Regardless though, Frances McDormand is awesome in this like everything else she's in. Then I watched Lost in Translation and loved a lot of what was happening here. Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray play off each other really, really well in this, and I love the feeling of loneliness and escapism being explored here. It's a really good atmosphere and mood that they craft here. Really, this could easily turn into one of my favorite comfort watches ever, if it wasn't for the pretty horrendous and unbearable racism constantly on display here. Like, the movie can't help but try and make a quippy racism like every 5 minutes, and it's awful. It almost fully ruins what is a really great movie outside of it. After that, I saw The Bike Riders. Pretty disappointed that this movie has performed as poorly as it has and will hit streaming so soon because I actually liked it a lot. Butler and Hardy are really good at this, and I loved how the first half built out the biker family, giving us a taste of each member and expanding our little crew as it went on. Easily the best part of this movie though is Jodie Comer, who is just amazing in each scene and will unfortunately go very underlooked come award season. Probably higher up on my favorite performances of the year list if I'm being honest. The second half of this definitely lost me a bit, but I still think it was pretty good for the whole run. Then I rewatched the Lego Batman movie. I had this on while I was cleaning, so I wasn't giving it my full attention, but I still think I love this almost as much as the first time I saw it. Not nearly as inventive or impactful as the Lego movie for me, but still a whole lot of fun. It really gets the spirit of Batman, like way better than a ton of actual Batman movies do. After that, I watched Sperm World, and this is probably one of my favorite docs of the last few years. Weirdly similar to We Met in Virtual Reality, I was surprised with how personal this movie was. Like how much these people were willing to share. It really does add another layer to the doc, this authenticity that so many documentaries are striving for but just can't reach. I never have thought this profoundly about sperm, and probably never will again, but I'm actually really glad I did. Then I saw Kinds of Kindness and wrote a video on it, so go check that out to hear my thoughts on it. After that, I watched Hail Caesar and enjoyed it way more than I really expected to. I wasn't fully enjoying all the old Hollywood stuff until the Channing Tatum number came up, and then it all just clicked for me. Also, every time that Alden Ehrenreich was on screen, I was having a blast, so it's safe to say I enjoyed this a bit. Then I followed that up with The Hudsucker Proxy. It was even more surprised to enjoy this one as much as I did. It's a really great capitalist satire that leads into the goofy, over-the-top nature of both Tim Robbins and Jennifer Jason Leigh's performances, which, by the way, are both really great. After that, I watched Problemista and loved what Julio Torres was going for here. Sure, there were times it wasn't always working for me, but it's still nice to see something so fresh and creative, especially from such a new voice. It really helps too that Tilda Swinton is just really damn good at this. We've had some truly exceptional performances this year. Then to end the month, I saw A Quiet Place Part 1 and didn't really love this at all. Most of it felt tedious and pointless, like I wasn't sure what the point of anything here was, or who this movie is even being made for. I always loved Lupita Nyong'o though, like I can't think of a time she's ever let me down. And that was my June. I actually got around to seeing a lot of movies this month, but like I said, had a few distractions keep me from getting a bunch of videos out, but I'm hoping this July will be a lot different, so be on the lookout for that. If you want to hear any more of my thoughts on these movies or see if they change, you should follow me on Letterboxd. And that's all for now, so as always, thank you for watching, please like and subscribe, and go watch some movies.